All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you kick things off. I'm going to shut my video down. And I'll pop back on when you're kind of winding down and you say we're ready for the parent council, okay?
Thank you, Kristen.
Yep.
And hello, everybody. Curtis Booher is my name, and this particular session is called "Let Them Go, Let Them Grow," and I'm really glad to be with you. I hope your time today has gone well. Later, we're going to have a chance for you to interact with our parent council and myself and ask some questions. So you can put those in the chat, and Kristen will come back and moderate those. My goal is not to give you more information about sending your student to the university. Our wonderful admissions team is able to provide better answers to those than I am. I'm going to talk for about 15 or 20 minutes here at the beginning of this session. And my goal and my purpose is to talk a little more personally about what it's like to send a child off to college. Some of you have done this before. For some of you, I would imagine this is the first time. I'm not an expert in any way, so I'm not coming at this from that kind of a posture. But I do have a little bit of a unique perspective because I am a professor. I'm in my 14th year teaching at Milligan. I teach in the Bible area. And I've had two daughters that I've sent through Milligan. My youngest daughter, Maggie, she graduated this past May, actually. So she was among the last class of Milligan College. And so I've had those two daughters. I've seen it from that kind of parent perspective, but I've also seen it from a professor's perspective, and that's what I want to share with you. Most of all, I want to just kind of give you encouragement that you can do it. I remember when my oldest daughter Abby was going to college, and we were in those months leading up to it. I remember the self-doubt that I was having, I'm not sure I can do this, right? There were moments when I was really questioning my ability. And I found some comfort in the strangest of places, in a couple of numbers. And I'm not a numbers person at all, but I ran across these two numbers, and maybe they'll be encouraging for you as well. The numbers are very simply 300 feet, 2 seconds. 300 feet, 2 seconds. They may not mean much to you, but if you were a pilot sitting on the deck of an aircraft carrier, those two numbers would mean a great deal. 300 feet, that's the length of the runway in front of you. That's the distance available to take your plane from a dead stop to airborne, about the length of a football field. And 2 seconds to do it. I mean, that's less time than it takes to do almost everything in our lives, right? That's less time than pouring your morning coffee. That's less time that it takes to buckle your seatbelt or kiss your kids goodbye. It's nearly the blink of an eye. And in most situations, under most circumstances, those parameters would be ridiculous. Like you take any pilot to a football field and say, by the time you get to the other end, you need to be able to clear the goalposts, and they would just laugh you off the field. But if you're on an aircraft carrier, then those numbers are not so intimidating, because that's exactly what an aircraft carrier was designed to do, to propel a plane from 0 to 170 over a short distance in a short amount of time. They don't do other things very well, but that one thing they do really well. I know, strange encouragement. Here's where I found the encouragement from all of that. This launching your kids into their future is what we were designed to do. As parents, it's what we were made to do, and you can do it. It's what you were made to do. After years of carpooling and chasing them all over the region, watching their games and their shows and making their favorite desserts, and it's time to let them go. It's time to let them fly the plane. And that can be tough, and it can bring up a lot of self-doubt, but it's what you were made to do, and you can do it. And not only can you do it, you can actually thrive during this transition time. And in order to maybe give a little bit of help along that line of not just surviving but thriving, I just have like 5 suggestions. These have come from my experience and talking with other parents. So here are 5 suggestions to not only survive this transition time, but actually thrive. The first suggestion is to be ready for your own questions. So you're very familiar with questions like, who am I, and who do I want to be, and what should I do with my life, coming from your kids. But don't be surprised if you find yourself starting to ask those kind of questions during this transition period, because watching your child transition into adulthood produces a little bit of an identity crisis for parents, because you spent 18 years being involved in the life of your kid, and it's like the all-consuming task of the day-to-day stuff. And maybe you're feeling a little anxious about who you will become, when they go to the university. So just be ready for that, and trust me, there is freedom that comes with that. There is some freedom that comes with not knowing every detail of your child's life. The kind of emotional roller coaster of the teenage years. And it gives you a chance to like take up some hobbies that you had to put on the back burner for a while. So eat somewhere besides McDonald's, here's when it comes to that, there's a tension that you should be aware of during this few months leading up to the launch into college life. The common tension is that parents who are starting to feel a little uneasy and like they're losing some control sometimes tend to clamp down just as students are ramping up for their independence. And creating more rules is kind of a last-ditch effort to control what feels uncontrollable. And so it's very common for that tension to start to exist in the months leading up to the transition into college. And so just be aware of that, and be ready literally to start letting go more and more, as you already have been doing, I'm sure. Don't let your like anxiety cause you to like start clamping down. If you have a student that's going to be a commuter, I want to just say that you may be thinking nothing's going to change. And I just want to encourage you to prepare for the changes that will come, because there will be changes. For a couple of semesters, my daughter lived at home. Most of the time, both of them lived on campus. And during the couple of semesters where one of my daughters lived at home while she was in school, it was really different than when she was living at home before. So even if your child's commuting, prepare yourself for changes coming. All right, so just be ready for your own questions coming. The second suggestion is don't expect too much too soon. Just because your child is at college doesn't mean that they're a college student. Maybe they're better described as a high school student at college, because it takes a little time for them to learn how to be a college student. How to study, how to eat, how to manage their time, how to do laundry, how to play, maybe they got that one down, how to handle money. It usually takes about a semester. So wait with patience for your college student to emerge. They'll get it. And along the way, it may be bumpy for them. They'll they'll have to face some things, some problems that they have to solve. And I would encourage you, when those problems arise, we are problem solvers. That's what we do as parents. And we want our children to succeed. And so we can't just be problem solvers for them. Because when they call home with a problem with their roommate or a particular professor that they are having trouble with or whatever it is, there's two ways you can solve it. Like, you can get on the phone and call the dean's office, or you can call the president's office and bring up the issue, and it'll probably get solved. But maybe a better way is to work them through the problem solving process and encourage them, coach them, listen to them, but then give them clues of how they can solve it themselves. Either way, the problems get solved, but you help them make that transition to a college student faster if you become a coach rather than a problem solver. The third suggestion is don't disconnect. You let them go, but don't disconnect. But stay in touch creatively. Students still love care packages. They still appreciate handwritten notes from home. Plus, you've got texting, and every so often you can say, "Hey, are you still okay? Everything good?" Text your mom, tell her you're okay. Whenever they do communicate with you, don't give guilt trips. Your room is so empty. We really wish you would come home. Don't forget you were financially indebted to us for a long time. Don't hound them about their deadlines. Are you keeping up with your work? Listen, I, as a professor, know how to motivate students to keep deadlines. And so don't feel that kind of pressure, whenever they do have problems, maybe point them to some resources that are excellent. The counseling center that's on campus is wonderful if they have anxiety and need to talk to somebody. Heather Jackson or Heather in the Center for Student Success is excellent resources that you can point them to. The next suggestion is to trust them, trust yourself, trust God. I mean, you've invested 18 years into parenting them, and now it's time to trust them to become their own person. It doesn't mean they won't fail. It doesn't mean they'll always make the best decisions, but you trust yourself. You have prepared them for this, and now trust them, because they'll get it. They'll figure it out. They will become an adult, but ultimately trust God, because the illusion that we had control at all was really just that. It's just an illusion. So trust God, who will continue to be with them and provide and care for them. And I think the last thing I want to say is just to celebrate the moments ahead. There's some wonderful days coming up. And so find ways to celebrate those. Whenever you do bring them to campus, to drop them off, there'll be some people, students, I assume, who will be there to greet and help carry stuff. Let them help you carry the stuff up to the rooms, whatever that looks like when the time comes. But find ways to celebrate those moments. Say important things during those times. Say the important stuff. Are you really going to wear your hair that way? You shouldn't be the last thing that you say, And if you're a little too emotional whenever it comes time to drop them off, if you're a little too emotional, then write them a letter and say, here's what I wanted to say, because this moment happens once in a lifetime, and they'll remember what you say. So say some important things, how proud you are, how much you love them. Say the important things, because they'll keep it. They'll remember it. It'll stick with them for a really long time. So celebrate. Find the moments to celebrate Even though it's a little scary at times, you can do this, and you can celebrate together these moments. Thank you for working so hard that college professors like me can have the joy of working with your children. When my daughters, when it came time for me to leave them at college, it was difficult at times, but also there was no better place for me to leave them, because I've seen Milligan from the on-campus perspective, and it is a healthy place to leave them. I was so happy when they decided to go to Milligan, and my wife and I didn't put any pressure on them, that this was their decision. But when they said that's where they wanted to go, I was happy, because I knew it's a good place for them. So you can rest assured, whenever you drop them off, you can go home. You're leaving them in a really good place. Every year when it comes matriculation, which is something that'll happen when we get back to school, professors repeat the same commitment every year, and part of that commitment is that we will follow the example of Jesus, who knew every student by name. And that is a real commitment. Your child is not a number, I make sure that I know every student in all of my classes by name, and I know a little bit about their story. And that's pretty common across the board among professors. And so it's a really good place for you to be able to leave them and feel good about it. So you can go home, it'll be okay. And you can do this. It's what you're made for. This is probably a good time for me to stop and see if there are questions for the parent council. So I invite Kristen back to our conversation.
Well, thanks so much, Curtis. I have the Mitchells and the Nickens on the conference here, and I'm going to promote them to panelists. So once you are promoted, Mitchells and Nickens, you will be able to turn on your video, which is at the bottom of your screen on the left-hand side. Great. And okay, good. We got the Mitchells. And I think I've promoted the Nickens. There we go. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. So I'm going to actually just kind of open things up. If you are on as an attendee and you're a parent of a student and you have a question from a parent perspective, that could be details as a parent. It could be questions about role as a parent. Please feel free to put them in the Q&A, and I will ask them of our parent council and Dr. Booher. But I'm going to have, before we start those questions, I'm going to ask you guys, and Curtis, you can answer this question too, but tell us a little bit about your students here and what they're studying, what they're involved in, and maybe how you guys found Milligan. So we'll start with the Nickens.
Okay. So we have two boys at Milligan. Michael will be a senior this year. He is a double major. He's a piano performance major and a Bible major. He's involved, obviously, in piano, but he's also plays in the orchestra. Ultimate Frisbee, which is now led to disc golf. So this was new this year for us. So he's very excited about it. Yeah. Joshua was freshman this year, be sophomore next year. He is electrical engineer major. He's also in the orchestra, plays cello in the orchestra.
Choir.
Oh, and in choir, yeah. Josh is also in the choir. Both boys, somewhat. Michael's been involved in herd mentality, and then I think Josh is going to be involved in that this next year as well. So,
Great. Mitchell's, same question.
You want to introduce Amber?
So Amber will be starting her 3rd year at Milligan this year, but it will be her senior year, and she is a psychology major currently and has been admitted to the early admittance program for occupational therapy. So she will actually be staying at Milligan when she completes her senior year in a year from now. So she is also involved in music. She is in the choir and part of the theater program. She's part of Student Government Association. She was an RA for a semester, and she's part of the honors program, part of the student ambassadors, and she works in the bookstore on campus. So she absolutely loves Milligan.
We found out about Milligan through an admissions counselor who was on tour and just shared some information about what the heart of the school is all about. And we were drawn to that as parents. And then our realizations of some of the things that had been shared with us came to light as we visited campus. Amber's senior year, the fall of her senior year. So it was a really helpful admissions counselor who shared a little bit about the occupational therapy program, and that certainly was a driver for Amber, and being able to start early in grad school through Milligan was a huge help. So I really appreciated the work of the admissions team.
Curtis, you want to say what Maggie and Abby majored in?
Sure. So Abby was my oldest, who graduated about 4 years ago. She was a English and humanities major, and went on and got her master's to be able to teach. But in the midst of that, early on, fell in love with special education. So she got her master's in special education, and now is a special education elementary school teacher. Maggie just graduated again in May. So I kind of know you work for 4 years, and then, all of the graduation stuff gets thrown up in the air, and it's, I would imagine some of you all have experienced a few tears and just a quick story. Maggie and her roommates throughout the semester started doing puzzles late at night as a stress reliever and have a little fun. And there was one that they didn't get finished, so she brought it home. And this is when everything was really up in the air. And she just found out graduation wasn't going to be happening, at normal time. And so she determined to work the puzzle, and there was a piece missing. There was like one piece missing out of this puzzle, and that became symbolic of her end of her college. Don't tell her. I'm going to buy that puzzle, and I'm going to get that piece. And when everything is looking better, we're going to give her that piece as a gift. But she was a humanities major she was a Spanish major, and now she's started the master's program to become a Spanish teacher.
Very cool. So Parent Council, I'll ask you one more kind of introductory question. How have you seen your parental roles change as your children enter college? And maybe, what, if you have one statement or a piece of advice to kind of give regarding that parental role, what would that be? We'll start back with the Nickens.
I guess he really could, and both the boys, they did rise to the occasion of getting their work in, and they did do their laundry, they did manage to eat and find food and function without being reminded. They got up for class, and they came home occasionally to do laundry. We live a half hour from Milligan, so we get to see them a little more than what you would if you were further away. But so it's been great to see them grow as and mature into another I guess place or role as they continue toward adulthood, I guess.
Mitchell?
Yeah, I think for us, it was to be able to breathe. And when greeted with a circumstance that we didn't anticipate, just take a deep breath, pray a little bit, and trust God. As Dr. Booher had said, with kids, we have two. Our son's in the Army. His projections in terms of planning were much different than Amber's, obviously. And each came with their different set of transitional circumstances. And we had to breathe through each. There are times where, like, what just happened? And just to be able to take a second and not overreact was great. Measure out through, again, hopefully God's leading, what would be best for each kid and each of the circumstances that we were dealing with. And so, yeah, just to take a deep breath when greeted with any sort of circumstances that weren't anticipated would be, I think, a helpful step. And then to reach out. We've been very fortunate. Amber's really embraced the faculty that she's interacted with in terms of their supports and helps, and those are there. We were so blown away by the engagement level of the faculty right away, like getting to know Dr. Abner. Literally move-in weekend, he would like get them all together right before matriculation, and everyone does that, all the advisors, but instantly there was a sense of, okay, I've got a place of belonging. And so if there was an opportunity, let's say something happened we didn't anticipate, whatever, to lean into those faculty members and their expertise, and sometimes just encouragement to get through either a problem, circumstance, or whatever it might be, which have been, I think, the number we could count on one hand. And honestly, it's just been awesome. So, yeah, so breathe through and then trust the faculty. They're there across the board, whether it be in the classroom, through activities, in the residence halls. They've just been awesome.
Yeah. Curtis, do you want to add anything?
Maybe just kind of inject some vision into their soul that both, I don't know, both of my daughters anyway were very driven individuals with high standards coming out of high school, a lot of self-pressure, and sometimes you have to help them see that life at college is more than just academics or athletics or whatever the case may be, that the spiritual aspect on campus, the engagement in campus life, making some friends, all of that is a part of this experience. And I find students, especially these days, have a more narrow focus on like the future and what they need to do to get to their preferred future, and they kind of miss the moment. They kind of miss the journey part of it. And so just remind them, like, the journey is as much a part of this as like where you're going to get to as far as a destination.
Yeah, so two of the questions in the question and answer right now have to do with being a long way away. One of them is 9+ hours away. Another is in another country. So yeah, any thoughts on kind of the transition as parents, but also, what support have you seen for your students here, if parents aren't able to be there immediately?
Absolutely.
I'll let you just jump in if you want to start answering.
Okay. Sure. We actually live not far from Cincinnati, Ohio, so we're about 6.5 hours away. So Amber was not going to be coming home every weekend. So it was really nice. Amber's freshman year, she had a roommate from California. So she definitely did not get to go home very often. So the atmosphere was just amazing. Amber was able to find folks that lived within a couple hours of where we are, and one of them had a car, so she was able to come home, for holidays and different things like that. And her roommate would then come with her. So, it was really nice to be able to see the girls kind of all got together and said, hey, you know, we've got room. Why don't you come here for a couple of days, or why don't you go there? Or, you know, how would you feel about that? And so I thought the community, you know, especially for the girls living on campus, was just amazing. And everybody was so accommodating and, you know, really, you know, wanting to make sure that everybody had somewhere to be during the holidays or things like that. So it felt like their own little support system that they were, you know, able to do that with each other, and really was a great thing, and made us actually feel a lot more comfortable about just dropping her off, knowing that we weren't just going to be able to hop on down and, you know, and see her in 30 minutes. So absolutely.
Yeah. It was neat too. They just in terms of that spirit of togetherness and how that was fostered. The girls even chipped in several $100s towards a flight for Amber's roommate or freshman year to get her home at Christmas. It was so cool because obviously just based on the circumstance, not a lot of means. She was really just going to make it to get to Milligan. And so they all chipped in together and made that happen, which was so neat. Even rides to the airport. For those, again, if you don't have a car, it's not a big deal. Again, the students have really, I think, time and time again offered examples of how they work together. The airport, Tri-C Airport, not too far away. Again, as a dad, I made the Google Doc on these are steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is how you fly by yourself. All of that. They actually followed it, I think, for the most part, or they at least told me they read it at least once. So, yeah, again, it's well supported and very, very easy in terms of travel considerations.
And of course, we're very close. But two things I would say on that, and Curtis touched on it a little bit, but at Milligan, it's almost, there's an effort, but I don't think it's an effort. I think it's just ingrained in everyone that they touch everybody, not just professors, but staff, everyone is very involved and making sure kids are where they're supposed to be and they're involved, they're engaged, and all those different types. RAs too. Michael's an RA, been an RA for a couple of years, and RAs do a great job of keeping everybody together and trying to create a small community within the Milligan community. And then second, we've been in the Appalachian Highlands, as we call it now, or we used to call the Tri-Cities, for 21 years now, and it's just a great place. We wouldn't live anywhere else. Very, very safe, very, very safe. Sometimes maybe for a college kid it's a little boring, but that's a good thing. There's not a lot of excitement from a news standpoint, but there's a lot of excitement for the community that's at Milligan. And I hear that not from my boys, not only from my boys, I hear it from other students as well.
I do think there is intentional effort to make students who are far from home feel like they have a second home. And I know we live close, so we've had dozens of students at our house, you know, for dinner. International students, students from all over the place. So, but I do understand, I like the kind of little bit of anxiety behind the question. My daughter last summer, was in Europe for 3 weeks with the humanities tour, and then spent immediately after that 5 weeks in Oviedo, Spain, for an immersive experience. So 8 weeks she was international student, and technology is a wonderful thing, you know. So it doesn't matter if you live in Elizabethton like I do. I didn't see my daughter very much, you know, throughout the semester. And we stayed in touch more with technology, just like when she was in Spain, more so than in person.
Yeah, we have another question too about, you know, a family sending a student far away, and how can Milligan help connect their son with the local church?
Well, I mean, the way my older son was telling me, because we're close, you know, he could have gone to his local church, but Milligan encouraged the students to find a church home. And there's many church homes for them to be a part of. And some of the churches will send shuttles or vans, you know, to the college to pick the students up. But there's many local churches around. And he was also encouraged to visit different churches and denominations to see, you know, kind of what other church families did, not just his familiar church family. And he really enjoyed just the variety of doing that. And we grew up in a Baptist church, the boys and myself did, and Todd. And Michael has actually found it's a Christian church in Johnson City that he really loves and has been a part of and is very happy with. And we're really pleased that he was mature enough to go out on his own and try different churches, and was encouraged to find a fit for him and a community church. And there's a lot of college students there at that church, and it's just been a blessing for him all the way around.
Absolutely.
You want to tackle it? Okay. Yeah, it was neat to see how, again, we've talked so much about that experience freshman year for Amber and the girls. And again, how they would talk to the students who were older, who had experiences in other places, and again, offer each other rides. And again, the shuttles, absolutely, you know, churches were great. I can't remember formally how it was introduced, but there was definitely some coaching on the part of the school in regards to, you know, how to get connected within a local body. And so it didn't take her friends long to have found a few options that they felt comfortable with, again, whether it be non-denominational, certain denomination they grew up in, and there are plenty of options in regards to theological bent and such. So yeah, it was pretty easy for her to be able to find a church that was well, I shouldn't say similar to ours because ours is a little unique, but in terms of heart and mission and focus on a faith development that has impact, was certainly plenty of options in the area.
And the Vespers that takes place every Sunday night is student-led worship experience, and doesn't take the place of a church body, but it is a very meaningful spiritual time for students, I think, and it happens right on campus. There is a church on campus, so they can go to church and be a part of a church body and not go anywhere. But surrounding the area, they'll find any kind of church they might be drawn to, a bigger church with a really active and good college ministry, or a small church who will just adopt, you know, a college student, and they'll have a lot of grandparents feeding them regularly, and everything in between those experiences.
Two questions in the Q&A about having a car, and did you feel like it was a necessity for your student or not?
Well, I mean, we were close, so both the boys were able to bring their car to school. And if someone needed a ride, or, you know, to go to Walmart or what have you, Cookout's really big. They're always going to Cookout. And
now there's one in Elizabeth.
Yes, and it's like,
and it's hours because, you know, of course, ETSU's in Johnson City, so that's what I've heard over and over again. We don't have to go to ETSU's Cookout. We can go to our Cookout.
Yeah. That's been really big, but they're really good to help each other, and you know, if they need to go someplace, it's.
But I wouldn't say that it's a necessity. Again, because of the fact that there are students that are local that have cars, and I don't, you know, it's really either if you're going to Elizabeth or Johnson City, I don't know, Curtis, you're talking 5 minutes at the most of a car ride. So and have everything available to them there. But again, you know, it's been great for us because they can drive home, do their laundry, whatever. So that's been a necessity, even though we're close, for them to have a car. But again, the community, it provides the transportation, really.
Yeah, my younger son has a friend, and I've talked to him, and it's like, okay, well, I've got to do such and such. So and so needs to be here, and I'm going to take them, and then I can do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So they can make friends, and if like one roommate has a vehicle, they just work it out.
Yeah.
God just seems to work out these things.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that. I don't think it's not a necessity. It is nice. Amber did have a car this past year, and that was helpful in her coming home. But then it was the same way. Like, we wanted her to reach out to other folks and find out who else was close to the area that might need a ride home.
Right.
But yeah, that her freshman year when she didn't have a car, it was not an issue. They were able to make things work, and she was able to, share rides with folks, to go to Walmart and
Right.
cook out.
Yeah, we echo that. We also wanted to save that money too, and just it was another aspect of the launch. So here you go, you're going to be on your own a little bit. You'll figure things out. You'll ask people for rides, and we sock that money away towards school. And honestly, then towards a car. We figured ultimately she's going to need to, with some of the options in regards to volunteer experiences in the area for occupational therapy specifically. But we really did plan on no car freshman year, both on the practical money side, but also on the, hey, you got this. You can go, and you're 6.5 hours away, and you got all the tools in your tool belt to make it work.
Yeah.
I will say that, just full disclosure, we aren't the best public transportation area. So there are some modes of public transportation, and there are some majors that as you become an upperclassman, you might need to have your own transportation, particularly nursing. You have clinical experiences. Social work, there is a practicum experience that you will do for 3 semesters. So there's some key things like that as you move into the hands-on portion and upper level major courses, or in Amber's case, a pre-professional program where you're really trying to get those observation hours and volunteer hours to prepare for your application for pre-professional programs. Then it does sometimes become very advantageous. However, oftentimes you will have other classmates that are doing a similar thing. So that, again, it's kind of the community support that they talked about. And we have up to 20 to 25 international students that come every year, and none of them bring vehicles either. So it's definitely something that the community and also, sports teams, coaches, directors, conductors, faculty members, staff members can help out with. And I had just another question about Uber or Lyft. We do have Uber and Lyft in our area. Good question. Well, we'll give it just a second here, but we're almost close to the end of our time. Thank you, Mitchells and Nickens, for joining us. I so appreciate your viewpoints and your time that you spent. Drews, are you wearing a Milligan University shirt?
He's got it.
I thought, right, today's the day. We got it in the mail, and we were excited. We were like, do we be like twinning nerds and wear the same shirt?
No, I love it.
Oh my gosh, you guys are. I'm so sorry. It's not a slam. We actually do it all the time, and because it's like, whether it be like the Milligan Parent Council shirt, or we'll find like we'll go to the bookstore when we visit, like, oh, we gotta get that. Oh, I want one like that too. And then we'll invariably end up wearing it.
No, I'm just impressed you have the university one. Now, Nickens, do you need a university shirt?
We do.
Okay, one's coming to you. I will email you, and you will get a shirt. You got to be ready and
I have
outfitted.
a sticker on my car, but I need a shirt. Yeah.
Okay, I'll hook you up. I got it.
They're very nice. Yeah, you gotta get one.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close us out here. Curtis, thanks for sharing your thoughts too. We will send out thank yous and contact information for all of the attendees, and we will be praying for you as you move through the summer and as you kind of look towards the transitions that we talked about today. So thanks so much, and we'll see you all soon.
Can't wait to see you on move-in day.